Street Fighter II for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System isn't just a game. It's a cultural landmark that revolutionized the world of fighting games and left an indelible mark on the gaming industry. Originally released in arcades in 1991 by Capcom, Street Fighter II became a monumental hit, and the Super Nintendo port that followed in 1992 brought its addictive combat to home consoles. This game not only paved the way for countless fighting games, but also cemented itself as one of the Super Nintendo's best-selling titles and a fixture of 1990s pop culture. Capcom's decision to develop Street Fighter II was spurred by the modest success of the first Street Fighter in 1987. Though it introduced innovative elements like special moves, the original game was limited by its lack of characters and less polished mechanics. Capcom saw potential in a sequel that could be richer in content and more refined, leading to the creation of Street Fighter II: The World Warrior. To bring Street Fighter II to life, Capcom assembled a dedicated team, including lead designer Akira Nishitani and producer Yoshiki Okamoto. The team focused on enhancing the game's mechanics, implementing the concept of special moves and distinct fighting styles for each character. The result was a deeper, more engaging experience that drew players in with its memorable characters and fast-paced combat. The Super Nintendo port was equally ambitious. Capcom aimed to keep the console version as close to the arcade original as possible while working within the constraints of Super Nintendo hardware. The Super Nintendo team managed to retain most of the game's features, including the iconic moves, characters, and levels, making it a huge success on the home console. This version not only set the standard for home fighting games, but also marked one of the Super Nintendo's biggest achievements in porting arcade experiences to a living room setting. Though fighting games don't always rely heavily on narrative, Street Fighter II introduced a simple yet compelling storyline that gave the characters motivation and intrigue. The plot centers around a global fighting tournament organized by the evil dictator Bison, the leader of the criminal organization Shadaloo. Each of the game's 8 playable characters has a personal reason for entering the tournament, be it to seek revenge, test their strength, or bring down Bison. Ryu, the game's stoic protagonist, fights to hone his skills, while Ken, his American rival, competes to test himself against the world's best fighters. Chun-Li, an Interpol officer, enters to avenge her father's death at the hands of Bison, while Guile, a soldier, also seeks revenge against Bison for killing his best friend. These diverse backstories add depth to each character, making the fights feel more meaningful and creating a sense of connection for players. The game transformed the fighting game genre with its in-depth mechanics, strategic gameplay, and unique roster. Street Fighter II popularized the concept of character variety, with each fighter having their own strengths, weaknesses, and special moves. From Ryu's Hadouken fireball to Chun-Li's spinning bird kick, these moves were simple to learn yet challenging to master, adding depth to the gameplay. One of the game's most defining features was its combo system, where players could string together a series of attacks for devastating damage. Though the combo system was initially a happy accident during development, it became a beloved mechanic that players would spend hours perfecting. Combos would go on to become a staple of future fighting games. Unlike many other games of its time, the game introduced a 6-button layout with 3 punch buttons and 3 kick buttons: light, medium, and heavy. This allowed for a wide range of moves, giving players more control over their attacks and paving the way for highly strategic, skill-based gameplay. Each character's moves were intuitive, often using quarter circle or charge commands to execute special moves. This intuitive design was a key reason behind the game's broad appeal. Players could learn the basics quickly, but spend years mastering advanced techniques. The game's competitive player versus player mode was groundbreaking, allowing players to test their skills against each other rather than just the AI. This feature helped popularize the concept of local multiplayer in fighting games and would later be instrumental in the rise of competitive gaming and esports. It also included fun bonus stages, such as smashing a car or breaking barrels, to provide a break from the main action. These stages allowed players to rack up extra points and added variety to the gameplay. Prior to this game, most fighting games had a single protagonist facing a series of enemies. Street Fighter II allowed players to choose from a roster of 8 characters, each with unique moves and backstories. This groundbreaking choice was one of the main reasons for its success. The characters and their moves were inspired by various martial arts and pop culture icons. For instance, Ryu and Ken's moves were influenced by traditional martial arts, while Guile's look was partially inspired by Jean-Claude Van Damme in Bloodsport. The combo system, one of the game's most beloved mechanics, was an accidental discovery by one of the developers while testing the game. Players soon realized they could chain moves together, giving rise to the high-level playstyle that the series is known for. The Super Nintendo version of Street Fighter II sold over 6 million copies worldwide, making it one of the best-selling games on the console. It set a precedent for console ports of arcade games, and was pivotal in establishing the Super Nintendo as a premier platform for fighting games. In the Japanese version, the character known as M. Bison in the West was originally named Vega, and Balrog was called M. Bison, a play on boxer Mike Tyson's name. To avoid any legal issues, the names were shuffled for Western audiences, leading to the familiar lineup we know today. The game sparked some of the earliest organized gaming tournaments, marking the start of competitive fighting game communities. Arcades became battlegrounds for players to prove their skills, and it laid the groundwork for modern esports events dedicated to fighting games. Street Fighter II remains one of the most influential video games of all time. It set the standard for the fighting game genre, inspiring countless sequels, spin-offs, and rival franchises like Mortal Kombat and Tekken. The game's mechanics, especially the combo system, became essential elements of fighting games, and its diverse cast of characters captured the imagination of players around the world. The game's success led to an array of expanded versions, including Street Fighter II, Turbo, and Super Street Fighter II, each adding new features, characters, and balance adjustments. These versions kept the game fresh and deepened its impact on both casual and competitive players. Beyond the gaming world, Street Fighter II influenced pop culture, spawning merchandise, an animated TV series, movies, and a dedicated fandom. The game's characters and iconic moves are widely recognized, and phrases like Hadouken have become part of gaming lexicon. The competitive fighting game scene can trace its origins directly to Street Fighter II. Without it, the modern fighting game tournament scene and events like EVO might never have taken off. Street Fighter II on the Super Nintendo isn't just a game. It's a symbol of an era when arcades were bustling, competitive gaming was emerging, and consoles were pushing the boundaries of what was possible in gaming. Its revolutionary mechanics, memorable characters, and competitive nature have stood the test of time, and it remains a beloved classic to this day. For fans of fighting games, it represents the pinnacle of retro gaming and serves as a reminder of how a single game can shape an entire genre, influence pop culture, and change the lives of gamers around the world. The legacy of Street Fighter II continues to live on, with its characters and mechanics still present in modern titles, and its influence felt in every corner of the gaming industry.